I'll be in the
Yeah.
day.
I'll put it with the other stuff as you guys sign. So chapter is not here, so.
Them both?
Yes,
They're from the same church?
yes.
Oh, so it's 71.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good to see you. Computer? Yeah, I got. Soon we'll have to deal with this at all. Could just be up there all the time. How are you? Another day.
People may take them to their cubicles,
They're actually attached, so they'll be. So they'll just be kind of there. Yep, yep, that's right. So when you're at like Costco and you try to walk away with the phone. It's up to you guys. We could get 7:30. I mean. Yep, that is very true.
It should be easy. It should be one of those, from what I was reading, it should be. Because it's a thing that something that was ready to be needed to be.
Almost there.
That's why this one should be not be on Zoom.
Okay. So just go ahead and proceed. Without her if she's there. Okay. Okay, we would like to welcome everyone out this evening. The time is 6 p.m. So we're prepared for our regularly scheduled City Council meeting for March 5th, 2024. So there was a workshop before this meeting in regards to the Intermountain Fair Housing Council, as organized by the Community Development Block Grant Department. Appreciate Council President Doty filling in for me. I was watching it on YouTube as I was traveling in through the snowstorm. But appreciate him doing that and for that presentation today. And that was just a workshop, so obviously no decisions were made, just informational for the council on that. So with that, we'll begin our meeting today with an invocation, and we do have a step in for Brian, who couldn't be here today. So I believe it's Ben Holt of the Faith Journey Church that is here with us today. So if everyone would please stand for the pledge or for the prayer, and then please remain standing after for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary of doing good." Precious God and Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your word. We thank you for this time as we gather here in the city of Caldwell, who's shown a real heart for its citizens. Lord, may your presence be known to each one tonight. May your power, may your glory just suffice each one of us. Lord, we praise you as this council meets together to serve the community to the best of their ability. Thank you for their commitment. Thank you for their faith in you and the glory that you surround them with. Father, we praise you. We thank you by the blood of Christ our Savior. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Holt, thank you so much for being here tonight and for praying for us to get us started this evening. You have a good evening. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Doty,
Here.
Dottie,
Here.
Register,
Here.
Wittenberg,
Here.
Aldred. Here. Williams.
Here.
Very good. Thank you so much. So all council members are present and accounted for, and Council Register will be joining us via Zoom this evening. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding an item on the agenda tonight? Okay, with that, moves us into our special presentations. We do have a proclamation that we'd like to read. This is for Senior Nutrition Program Month, which is March 2024, and it is March, not January out there, even though with the snow, who knows what time of year it is. So this states, whereas on March 22nd, 1972, President Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 to include a national public-private nutrition program for individuals 60 years and older. And whereas, for more than 5 decades, this landmark law has supported our nation's seniors and helped to fund community-based organizations like Meals on Wheels, and is still the only federal program designed specifically to meet the nutritional and social needs of older adults. And whereas, the Meals on Wheels program in Caldwell, Idaho, provides nutritious home-delivered meals to seniors throughout Caldwell, Middleton, and Greenleaf that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby helping to prevent unnecessary falls and hospitalizations and provide necessary connections. The Meals on Wheels program in Caldwell has served our communities admirably for 49 years. And whereas volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Caldwell are the backbone of the program, delivering nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities. And whereas the Caldwell Senior Center also provides on-site luncheon meals on a daily basis for the seniors within the community. And whereas the Meals on Wheels programs in Caldwell deserve recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic, inclement weather, and other emergencies. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs from across the country are joining together for the hashtag Save Lunch campaign this March to celebrate their collective success and to generate the support needed to ensure these critical programs can continue to address food insecurity and malnutrition. Now, therefore, I, Jerem Wagner, Mayor of Caldwell, Idaho, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as a month celebrating senior nutrition programs and urge every community member to take this month to honor our senior nutrition programs. Dated this 5th day of March 2024. So we definitely want to recognize that, and I see that Julie's here in the audience this evening. Do you want to say a few words real quick?
I'll always take the chance to talk about Meals on Wheels. Hi, my name's Julie Warwick. I have been program coordinator of the Caldwell Meals on Wheels program for almost 15 years. Seems like much longer and much shorter at the same time. We do amazing work. Any of you that would like to volunteer, public, city servants, I would love to take you on a route so that you can see what we actually do. We served 43,000 meals in Caldwell, Middleton, and Greenleaf last year in 2023. Most of those were in Caldwell. Some of these folks would not know what to do without those meals, and so they really appreciate getting them and wouldn't have hot, healthy meals without them. I also want to mention the Caldwell Senior Center here in Caldwell is also amazing. It helps to support those seniors that are still mobile and come to eat lunch together. Socialize. Right now they're having bingo down there. That's normally where I am on Tuesday night helping with bingo. It would invite everybody. It's open to the public, and they pay out real cash money at bingo. So if we can get you there, it'd be great. That's one of the programs that supports the Senior Center more than most. Patty Brackett is here. She is the coordinator of the Caldwell Senior Center, does an amazing job. I'd like to introduce Alex Esparza, who is my board president with Caldwell Meals on Wheels. And right behind him is Nellie and Kenton Harris. Kenton is on my board of directors as well, and my longest serving volunteer. He's got just over 20 years in actually delivering meals. And we couldn't do it without those volunteers. And we appreciate you recognizing Senior Nutrition Month.
Yeah, thank you so much for all you do and everything that. It's our pleasure to do that, to bring some light to that wonderful program. I was down playing bingo at the Boys and Girls Club, but it wasn't cash money. It was bouncy balls and things like that. So Senior Center, I may have to hit that up. So,
there you go.
But really appreciate all that you do. So, yes. You want to get a picture, Char? I've had the opportunity as well to go out with Julie a few times, doing some Meals on Wheels and delivering those, and we were even able to fix a pothole one time. So when we were out there, able to notice that and get that taken care of for us. So yeah, I would encourage any council members who have the desire to reach out and go out. And it's not about the food. You'll find that out really quick. For those seniors, a lot of them, it's the only relation they really have sometimes during the day is that that quick, 30-second, if that, visit, and it means the world to them. So it's a great program for, again, the food is very important, but so is the other parts as well. So thank you for all you do. We do not have any audience participation today. Sign up for that. So what we will do, though, is make just a slight modification to our agenda. We're going to move Steve Jenkins up. He's got an early flight in the morning, so we're going to go ahead and have him present. So he's going to be talking about the downtown parking meters, just giving an update for the council. You probably have been getting some questions, I imagine, when are they coming, things of that nature. So I thought it'd be good to have an update on that, so to accommodate that request from council. So, Mr. Jenkins, it was all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the modification there. Thank you, council, for allowing that to occur between the baby and early flights. I don't know if I would have even had 3 hours of sleep tonight, so thank you for that. Real quick, given the brevity of what I have to share, I just want to provide just a few slides to showcase an update for parking downtown. With that, I'll go ahead and get started here. So, jump right in, we have some meter types and totals. The city will have about 15 Mackay Beacon Bay doublehead meters, and if I can explain this real briefly, it's the first image here to my far left, and really what this is it's a doublehead, so it serves 2 parking stalls simultaneously. They look a little different than they were in the past. They're not as clunky. They don't have that look where they protrude out as they used to. They're much more sleek today. So they have obviously a different look there, but you can see the green and the gray side of that first image there showcases that it serves the 2 stalls. And then we'll have 9 single bay head meters, and that's the middle image there, and that will serve just 1 parking stall. And then we'll have 65 Flowbird multi-space meters. This will be typically it'll serve 4 to 5 stalls simultaneously. So you can see that these will be for less clutter. They'll just be in spaces that will serve a larger swath of parking stalls. And then meter notes. As a reminder, each meter will be able to facilitate a 15-minute free session. First 15 minutes of parking is free. And multi-space meters, individuals will need to put in their license plate number to get the 15 minutes for free. So that multi-space meter was the last image that was shown in the previous slide. And you just put your license plate number in to recognize that first 15 minutes. And then the car park will have an LPR vehicle as they drive around and monitor the downtown parking stalls, the area that is set to have paid parking in the downtown core, and they'll recognize users as paid, provided this information is in the system. And you can see here in the image, you'll press this green button on the front piece of the meters, and that will allow for the 15 minutes to be triggered. And then payment methods. The meters will all take credit card or coin, no bills. Parkers will also have an option to use the Park Mobile app, or you can just scan the QR code on the meter to pay. So there's an image here that I've included. Ultimately, this will be on the meters as well, so you can scan the image there to take you right to the payment screen, or you can put in the zone number found at the bottom of that contact this parking image right there, and you can identify exactly where to pay and how to pay. And you put in your license plate number and go ahead and proceed to the payment screen. And then implementation. This is probably the big one for you as counselors. So the car park, they're being told that meters should be delivered sometime between the last week of March and the first week of April. I messed up the TPC there. It's supposed to be TCP. But TCP, the car park, needs a few weeks for installation, and they're in a good position for a go-live date sometime in May. With this new timeline, city staff will meet with the car park each week leading up to the go-live date. And with that said, I'd love to obviously take in your feedback and be able to deliver that information back to their team as we prepare for implementation. So this is all preliminary, of course, as it relates to the process. May is ambiguous, more or less. I want to put this in front of the governing body tonight so I can have further direction as to if May is appropriate or if we need to identify a different month to look at the implementation piece. But given what you know tonight, this is what's most practical with the car park, our parking management partner. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
The TPC Scottsdale is one of my favorite golf courses, so at least you got that
That's
part
probably
right
what I was
on it,
thinking.
so.
I don't know.
So yes, thank you so much. Appreciate that. I know, like I said, there's been some questions about, when and where. I know there's some delays in the ordering, and so we wanted to bring that to council. Then also, if you do have any questions for Steve or anything like that.
Quick question.
Yes, Councilor Halsey.
Will city staff be installing the posts, or will Car Park be doing it all?
Yes, Mayor, Councilor Allgood, the car park will be doing the installation piece. So it'll take a few weeks from when they are delivered to get all that updated and installed.
Where the multimeters are, will we just be numbering stalls? You can say I'm in number 30, or what? Is that how that works?
Correct. Well, I'll take it back. Multi-space meter will serve, just think of parking lot, multiple spaces in there. It's triggered through your license plate information. So regardless of if there's a number or not, it'll be triggered based on just that information that you put from your vehicle.
Very good. Council Register, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Okay, very good. Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very
So-
much. Off to sleep, so I appreciate you guys.
Okay, sounds good. Best of luck on that. Okay, very good. That moves us into our consent calendar. I don't believe we have any amendments, if I'm not mistaken. So do we have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
So a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of the consent calendar. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, then with that, the voting is in process, coming along. Can't see it. Those are my dad would come visit, he would pay. So is it not working? Not pulling up? Okay, so we'll just have roll call vote from Mrs. Clerk.
Doty,
Yes.
Stoddard,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
Dittenberg,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, very good. That motion passes unanimously. There is no old business, so it moves us straight into new business. Action item number 1 is a quasi judicial public hearing. So this is case number ANN 22-27, sub 22-44, PUD 22-11. A request for annexation in the city of Caldwell with a zoning designation of R2 medium density. Also a development agreement associated with the annexation, and a preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for Jayhawk Creek Planned Unit Development Subdivision. So with that, Katie, I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Katie Wright, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Before you is Jayhawk Creek, ANN 2227, PUD 2211, and SUB 2244. This request went before the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 24th, 2024. There were some late exhibits that consisted of a comment from Caldwell School District, the bill and ordinance, and the ordinance summary that were all emailed over to you guys. The project location is 13.77 acre parcel located on the west side of Florida Avenue, approximately 600 feet north of Ustick Road. The site has frontage along Florida Avenue. Helena Drive will no longer run along the south of the parcel. The project site is currently surrounded by Caldwell High School and residential to the north, residential and ag to the south, residential to the east, and Brothers Park and the YMCA to the west. One second. All applications apply to the entirety of the parcel. The applicant is requesting an annexation with the initial zoning of R2, medium density residential, to meet the comprehensive plan designation. The applicant's also requesting a planned unit development with a preliminary plat. I apologize. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Tonight's request consists of the applicant's proposal for annexation with the initial medium-density residential zoning. The proposed development is surrounded by low-density and medium-density residential to the north, county ag, community commercial, and low-density residential to the south, medium-density residential to the east, and low-density residential to the west. As stated in the previous slide, the R1 zoning directly to the north and the west are the past the county part, which is Brothers Park, are not actually single-family residential at this time. The applicant is requesting to stay consistent with the medium-density residential designation, and the applicant is in conformance with that density requirement. The proposed land use of a planned unit development is a special use, specially permitted land use with the zoning district. The applicant is proposing a development consisting of 72 detached single-family homes and 13 common lots. The proposed development and project has been analyzed by compliance with the city codes and policies, and staff finds the development is consistent with all parking and landscaping requirements. They are compliant with all bulk standards for lot size, setbacks, frontage, and height of buildings. The proposed planned unit development is in compliance with all size, land use, design, and amenity requirements, with some deviations that will be expressed on the next slide. The proposed development will have adequate site access, utilities, and services to serve the site, and the proposed development is in compliance with all zoning and subdivision ordinances. Code section 100307 states that standards are allowed to be modified to better suit the site and the project. The applicant is proposing the following allowed deviations: 9-foot rear setback for Block 2, lots 2 through 10 and 19 through 25, 14-foot rear setback for Block 4, lot 2 through 5, no PUD additional parking spaces for lots less than 45 feet, minimum lot size of 3,822 square feet, and minimum frontage of 42 feet. Infill amenity deviation requests. Due to the site being infill, the code chooses to allow amenity deviation as a reward to provide infill projects, and this is in code section 10030777. The applicant is requesting to deviate from berms being along the street landscaping. The access point is already constrained with the landscaping and the drain to the north. Public agencies were notified and asked to provide comments. The only agencies that had concerns were Caldwell School District, sent in 3 comments, one being one of those late exhibits today. And they sent in on their second letter a few routes that they proposed the students use to walk to the high school to the north. And they also didn't want any connection through the baseball fields. The proposed 2040 bike and pedestrian plan does call out that as an existing linear park, but that is fenced off at this time, and this will be talked a little bit more later on in the presentation. There were written comments from Vernon Davis, the previous owner of this property. This letter does not state if the citizen is in favor, opposed, or neutral, but wanted to make clear his specific concerns, such as potential foul balls, hitting home runs from hitting homes from Caldwell High School, access locations and utilities that are currently located under Helena Drive. Written comment was received from Kathy Hubbs. This letter is in opposition of the development. She mentioned she's concerned about traffic noise and view obstruction from current residents. The Caldwell School District staff, planning and zoning staff, and the applicant met to discuss possible options for pathway connection to Caldwell High School. They have met the condition of providing a linear park along Caldwell Low-Line Canal, as called out in the 2040 Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. This plan shows an existing public pathway along the back of Caldwell School District, as shown in orange on the screen. Yet this pathway is not open to the public, limiting the applicant's ability to connect. Another option proposed by the applicant, I apologize for my questionable drawings on your screen, but there was discussion of an 8-foot pathway located in an 18-foot wide common lot going from the development to the school. At a later date, this was revisited to provide a connection between the development and Brothers Park via an access easement through the school property, separated by a fence for security purposes, which then provides easy access to Caldwell High School, the YMCA, and Brothers Park, as shown in purple. This would require the applicant to relocate a secured private pathway on the school property, which is shown in blue to the left, to parallel the proposed development access pathway shown in red, also on the visual to the left. The options the school district provided showed sidewalk development along the public roads shown on this slide. However, the city does not own all of the right-of-ways for these proposed connections. Therefore, additional right-of-way dedication would be needed along properties that are not owned by the developer. The applicant is proposing a pathway along the Caldwell Lowline Canal as described as the master plan and depicted on the right in yellow. They are also providing stubs for future pedestrian and vehicular connections, as shown in yellow on the left. These may eventually lead to Brothers Park as well, providing more connection to the school and to the Y. These conditions are all existing and proposed site-specific conditions for the application. Staff recommended a few modifications. Staff recommends that condition 1 be removed due to the updated plat being submitted showing the required pathway. Staff recommends that condition 2 be modified to say the applicant shall provide an updated landscape plan that shows proper linear park pathway landscaping along the west landscape buffer of the pathway prior to construction drawings being approved. And then the following site-specific conditions are to remain. The applicant shall install 7-foot sidewalks along Florida Avenue frontage. The Caldwell City Landscape Plan Reviewer was determined that the 10-foot landscape buffer or the land use buffer between the school to the north and the development is not necessary due to the vast separation currently existing. An official lot split of parcel R2744201 to reflect the current Canyon County tax assessment lot lines must be approved through Canyon County prior to submitting for construction drawings. If the council does choose to add a condition regarding the pathways, council can ask for help with that language from staff. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval and that such request is subject to the conditions as specified in the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order of decision. And staff recommends that if council approves the request, that such request is subject to the conditions as specified in the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order of decision. And I stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Questions from council? Councilor Allgood?
Excuse me, Katie. Did I hear you say something about Helena Drive? It would go away or change, or what was the situation there?
Yes, Mayor and Council. The Jayhawk Street is where they're planning to stub it. So over off of Florida, they will be granting access, and then it will be brought through the development. Otherwise, Helena Drive currently would go around like right here through these lots. So they're just proposing to bring that same road, which would still allow access to these parcels over here. They're getting a common drive right here to allow for that as well.
So are we vacating Helena, or what are we doing there?
Mayor and Council, I believe right now that that's just a private lane, technically private lane. Potentially, maybe the city engineer would be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that maybe that was potentially going to be brought through as a different form of road, but as of right now.
Thank you.
So let me throw a quick follow-up on, since we're on that question, and this may be for the developer or maybe Rob, but obviously I'm guessing there's an easement there now for them to be able to trespass onto onto this property to get to their lane on the back. So does the easement, does it just state that they just need to be able to get from point A to point B? Is the easement specific for this area? Is there not an easement?
Mayor and Council, to my understanding, and the applicant may be able to help out as well, I believe that, so originally this parcel and the parcels that you are seeing on the west side, the two that are, yes, those two, thank you, Mayor. Those were all one parcel at one point, is my understanding. And so that road essentially was just leading to those two parcels. So I'm not sure exactly if there is an easement right there at this time, but I don't know if Haley knows either, but
Yeah, I'm not sure at the moment if there is a parcel or if there's an easement or not.
Is that on? I'm not sure if that's,
Is it working now?
I don't know. I don't hear it. Council Register, do you hear?
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, there we go.
As of right now, I cannot confirm an easement. It's not showing up on our web map. However, the applicant should be able to confirm if an easement does or does not exist, as this would have been pulled through their title report when they were putting their plat together. So the applicant would probably have more information on the easement, and the verbiage of the easement, whether it says to maintain access or whether it is a firm legal description defining what that access looks like.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, we can leave that up to the developer to present.
Mayor and
Is that-
council, they did say they know.
Okay, very good. Okay, excellent. Other questions from council?
Mayor.
Councilor Doty?
So can we go back to the slide with the parking, deviation request? So I guess I just want further explanation on that. So they want a deviation from the minimum frontage of 42, so we obviously have an ordinance rule or law in place that says that you need parking even if it's above 42 feet. So can you explain why we would allow that?
Mayor and council, the specific condition for the parking that they're waiving, is essentially just for the additional spaces that would be off-street parking lots provided, because essentially this was put in there, in case there was no street parking available. But the applicant can talk more about this as well, but they're providing plenty of off-street parking for each of the lots.
Off-street meaning using city streets?
Using driveways, garages, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and just to confirm, I just looked at it, but it looks like they are standard, city streets, residential city street widths, it looks like. Is that correct?
Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, any other questions, council, at this time? Council Register, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much,
Thank
Katie.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so signed up to testify. I don't believe we have you. We just have Clay and Riley. Are you Riley?
I put my name, I'm Emily Mueller. I wrote my name on.
Okay, on neutral, but I'm guessing you're in favor.
I'm in
so,
favor.
Okay, very, very good. So we can make that change. Okay, so Emily, if you don't mind coming to the microphone, and then if you could just state your name and address for the record, and then you will have 10 minutes for your presentation, and I'll let you know when there's 1 minute left. We do ask you to respect that time limit and just wrap it up when you do get to that point.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Emily Mueller with Idaho Holdings at 839 South Bridgeway Place. Thank you, staff, for your effort and work on this project, which we are excited to present this evening. Jayhawk is located north of Ustick along South Florida Avenue, consisting of 13.77 acres. This site meets the desired intent of the city for urban infill, bordering Caldwell High School, nearby to Brothers Park, and closely located to the YMCA. There are a number of city subdivisions as well to the east and north. We're excited to be providing this quality development and housing in a really desirable area of the city. As staff summarized, the property is designated for medium-density residential in the City of Caldwell Comp Plan. The land use policies in the comp plan also encourage the use of a planned unit development in areas that qualify for infill development, like here. So accordingly, applicant is requesting an R2 zoning with a PUD, as shown on the screen before you in the current zoning map. The R2 zone is compatible with the adjoining land uses and zoning in the area, including the R2 subdivisions to the east and north, and again, the Caldwell High School to the north, and a large amount of Brothers Park to the west. Just between us and Brothers Park are two county lots that we can discuss more. Again, the R2 PUD zone is in compliance with the comp plan designation. The requested preliminary plat consists of a single-family residential subdivision. The subdivision will take access from Florida Avenue to the site's southeast boundary, and that roadway will continue to provide a substreet to the property to our west. As discussed earlier, there is an access agreement with the property to the west. And that access agreement then provides that once this property develops, that we would just continue to provide access. And we are thankful to be able to provide access in the exact same location that property currently takes access, so they don't have to reroute any of the ways they access their home or anything like that. So that's where Jayhawk Street stubs in to the southwest there. The subdivision consists of 72 single-family residential lots, 13 common lots, and 1 shared driveway. The average lot size is 4,642 square feet with a gross density of 5.25 dwelling units to the acre. The total open space is 2.34 acres, with 1.6 acres being usable open space, or that's 11.7% usable open space, exceeding the PUD requirement. Also, over half the lots in this subdivision, we're really proud of how we've been able to kind of configure a little bit of an awkward and small site to be able to maximize the value of this site and maximize its utility. Over half the lots back to some sort of green space or pathway. All the lots on the north back to Caldwell High School, all the lots on the east back to that low-lying canal pathway, and then all the lots, interior lots, back to some sort of either major pathway or amenity space. So we've really tried to maximize the utility of the site here. A PUD is intended to provide flexibility and latitude and relief from the provisions of the zoning ordinance in exchange for innovative development that allocates appropriate areas for open space and improvements and pathways and recreation. Here, Jayhawk has been carefully designed to be that type of attractive, highly amenitized development that PUDs are designed to incentivize. The project's walking paths and open spaces will create a first-class neighborhood where residents can recreate and socialize in this desirable area of the city that's also an intimate, small community. As outlined earlier by staff, the project meets all statutory required findings for a PUD set forth in the City of Caldwell City Code, specifically that the site consists of infill development and is compatible with the existing neighborhood and surrounding uses. The project further proposes a variety of housing and building types. And so with the range of lot widths that we are proposing, this will offer housing, single-family housing at different sale and price points. And finally, the relatively small and irregularly shaped portion of the site supports a finding for a PUD. And we are constructing a pathway along the low-lying canal, preserving the natural features of the site. Applicant has provided a heightened amenity package as well, in line with the PUD requirements. And as set forth in code, we are meeting the required amenities and the optional amenities. So we're required to provide 4 optional amenities, and we are setting forth 7 optional amenities, including a basketball court, a playground, and that are set forth in the list of code provisions, including pickleball courts for active recreation, a gazebo, a fire pit, community planting boxes, and garden space for neighbors of all ages to come together. And then the 7th provision there is that all of the buildings will be sprinklered, which is also set forth in the code there. This slide further depicts the major and minor pathway system that will be constructed throughout the community, which will provide connectivity to all north, south, east, and west portions of the subdivision. Additionally, this slide just again shows those pedestrian stubs and those pedestrian walkways. And we appreciate staff's summary of the connectivity that we have been able to discuss with the city, the school district. And with this, really feel and understand that we are providing all of the connectivity that we are able to. We're providing the pathway along the full eastern boundary that is stubbed to the school district property. It's outside of the fence, which was a concern of the school district. They wanted it to be outside the fence so that people couldn't enter the school in the southern portion. So we're providing that pathway connection. And furthermore, and really importantly, we're providing 2 connections to the west. So when those parcels redevelop, which they're big enough to redevelop, those parcels will be the last piece to get the pathways to connect to Brothers Park. So, we are certainly doing our part. We want to do our part in providing that connectivity and really have done all that we can. To that point, we were able to discuss with Katie today, that if an alternative space is needed to be constructed, to the west-north portion of the site, we would be amenable to doing that. Finally, in exchange for meeting the PUD community amenity requirements and pathway requirements, we ask for flexibility in the zoning standards to as allowed by city code. First, we ask for setback requirements for those highlighted lots. As outlined in blue, we're asking for a 9-foot setback. And the reason for that requested flexibility really is because of the major pathway that's going in behind those lots. And I do want to note that not all of those lots would use that full setback waiver. So it's really used to design some alternative housing types to provide some flexibility in how deep the housing types are and some visual interest and architectural variety and modularity as you move through those lines of houses. The same thing with the houses outlined in red there. We're requesting a 14-foot rear setback for Block 4, lots 2 to 5. Again, not all lots would use that full setback. It's to provide some variety in the housing type. Second, we're requesting a reduction to the minimum lot size to range between 3,822, and that's different than what's on my slide, so I apologize for that typo, but it's 3,822 square feet. This request is in alignment with the flexibility that the PUD affords to have those heightened amenities and pathways. And then third, we're asking for relief from the communal parking requirements. As outlined by staff, the real reason for that is we are providing 2-car garages in each home with deep driveways, 20 feet deep, that will allow for 2 additional cars to park. And again, we'll have 37-foot wide streets, which would allow for parking to be additional parking, occasional parking street side. And then finally, this is really a pretty small subdivision, 13.7 acres. And all the central amenities are easily walkable amongst all of the houses, especially with all of the pathways that we have. Fourth and finally, we're asking for relief from the requirement to construct a berm along Florida Avenue, because after we complete all the roadway improvements, including reconstructing the low-lying canal culverts there will be little space, if any, for a berm to be constructed. So it would really just kind of be like a mound on the very corner of Lot 2, because Lot 1, as shown there in the southwest corner, will largely be rerouting that culvert. And then Lots 2 and 16, as you can see, provide an adequate buffer for Lots 3 and 15 along Florida Avenue there. So we really don't feel that requirement is needed here.
And you have 1 minute left, just so you know.
Thank you. Well, with that, I will stand for questions.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that information. I see some mics coming down. Councilor Williams, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot that I like about this, especially the use of the infill, which you've already noted. One of my, frankly, biggest concerns is those baseball fields, and I know it's come up before, but with those homes being right up against those baseball fields, foul balls especially are going to mean broken windows, damaged rain gutters, damaged roof tiles, damaged siding potentially. Has any thought been given to putting up a security screen across that north side? I could just see this becoming a problem, and yet the only solution I can think of is that security screen, because what else are we going to do with 13 acres? But it's going to be a big problem, and maybe even a bigger problem than that if you've got children playing in the backyard of these homes and a foul ball comes over and hits one of them. We may have a bigger concern than siding. Does that make sense?
Mayor and Councilman, thank you. I would need to talk with the rest of my team about a safety screen. That has not been something that we thought was thought through as something that would require that amount of attention. I think in my experience where we've done other developments next to recreation areas, I lived on a public golf course, and it's a kind of assumed. But I appreciate your comment, and we can think about that. But I appreciate the comment.
So let me follow up, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Again, infill properties, it's a much better option to us than sprawl. I think you've got a reasonable product here, but would you be willing to move forward if we made that a condition of this approval?
Mayor and Councilman, I would need to talk to my team on that. I'm not the owner and wouldn't be able to make that decision, but we could get back to you on when I come back up if that would be all right on that question.
Yeah, and just to follow up, so that when you're talking about like a safety screening, that's like netting, correct?
Yes.
Like you see at the baseball fields. Okay, I just want to make sure that's what I was thinking on it. Yes, Councilor
And just to
Doty.
comment on that, if that is approved, it might be, I don't know if you were talking about at the high school or in the subdivision, but clearly putting it at the high school would be cheaper and easier. I think you wouldn't have to use as much. So just a thought there.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Other questions, Councilor Stoddard?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious, are you figuring that most of the traffic will come out on U-Stick or the other way? Have any idea?
Mayor and Councilman, I do not know that. I do know that, the U-Stick interchange that was just improved with that roundabout. So I think that's really going to be able to facilitate traffic really well in and around the area, having that improvement already made. That would help facilitate traffic. That might be a more appealable option to folks.
Because the last meeting we had, we just approved another subdivision there on South Indiana too, that would come off on Laster or U-Stick or South Indiana, so it's going to be quite a traffic problem there, I think. But anyway, we'll have to figure that out, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Yes, Councilor Allgood.
So you were going to speak to Helena Avenue there, and in reading the notes, I saw that there's utilities in that lane. How are you guys going to deal with that? What is the plan there?
Mayor and Councilman, I would need to check with our engineering team, but it looks there's no utilities. Okay, if I could, when I come back and talk about the screening, if I could come back and let you know about that, Councilman.
The note about the utilities was in the letter from the previous owner, Mr. Vernon.
Okay. Thank you. Would it be all right, Mayor and Councilman, if when in my rebuttal I came back up and discussed that? Would that be all right? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I give you the correct information.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember, was it like an irrigation utility or?
Was TDS fiber and, let me get back to it here. It was in the letter from a previous owner. Right here. This is from Vernon Dennis. And it says, private lane Helena now exists, would be taken out. The private lane has underground telephone lines, irrigation tile, and TDN fiber optic. I'm just basing that on what he said.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. Yes, let me, I just want to make sure that I'm going to get you the best information that I can. So I know I have hopefully more time to come back up here.
And then just one other
Yes, go
comment.
right ahead.
And I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but the thing I'm struggling with, I agree with Councilor Williams. The idea of infill is good. My concern is that the only exit for these 70 homes is across the canal, in one spot. Should that canal have an issue or the road have an issue, there's residents of 70 homes that are stuck in there with no egress at all, and so that concerns me a great deal. And I realize you're not required to have two entries, but boy, if there's road work or canal work, it seems to me could be a problem. So anyway.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. Yes, and again, that's, we are sprinklering the buildings and we are improving the culvert. So our engineering team is coming in and improving the culvert there as well.
Perfect. Excellent. Any other questions, Council? So I do have a few.
Great.
So before we let you go, so could you just one more time for me, and I apologize, I was actually looking at some other information when you were talking about the easement. Could you go over that one more time regarding the easement that is Helena right now?
Correct. Thank you, Mayor. Yes. So there is an access agreement. It doesn't have a specific legal description. It just provides that once the property redevelops, that the property would stub access and continue to provide reasonable access to, the properties to the west, is what I believe, that agreement says. So Helena Drive, yes, is not a public street, and engineering could jump in with any other comments they have there, but, between us and the neighbor, we just need to provide them access, and we're providing them access at the exact same place.
Perfect. And could we go to the plat, Noah, or whoever has the,
Yeah, I can go.
right, actually, that works too. So, this is what I was looking at when you were talking about this, so I apologize. So it appears that all the lots have the 42-foot minimum frontage. That Councilor Doty's kind of questioned earlier, except for one. So correct me if I'm wrong, it appears that lot 14 was the only one that I could see that was less than 42. And it appears that you probably could have got that if you would have done an easement there on that. Is that correct, or am I missing something on that minimum lot frontage?
Mayor, thank you for that question. All of the perimeter lots, and maybe you'll need to ask me again if I don't answer it clearly, but all of the perimeter lots are at least 50 feet wide. The interior lots are almost all 42 feet. So all the perimeter lots are 50 feet. Does that answer your question?
What's the minimum lot frontage in the R2?
Mayor, I believe it's 45 feet.
Oh, is it 45? Oh, I was thinking it was 42. Okay, so that,
Yeah.
there we go. So that answers that question. I did have just a couple others I wrote down. So you mentioned, I just wanted to confirm, and I think you did already, residential homes, all the residential homes will be fire sprinklered. Is that correct?
Mayor, that's correct.
That's awesome. I know I saw our fire marshal back there. I wasn't looking when you mentioned that, but I imagine he smiled. So I know I put fire sprinklers in my home when I built it. So it's a personal choice, and I think that's a good thing. So, but I'm excited that you put that in there, and that could be part of the reason I wonder is what Councilor Allgood with his concern, if that was something on that. Was that something that came into play to provide those, or is that typical for this developer, or?
Mayor, yes, the access point certainly was, something that pushed that along, due to, the one access point. But I think we would all personally agree that that's it's just a great thing to have. And it's feasible when you have a little bit of a smaller subdivision to put that extra, touch on that, so.
Yeah, and a quick plug from, they're actually not as expensive as people think. They are expensive, but if you do it when you build, it's way better than trying to retrofit. So, always encourage that if you're looking at that to take that as an option. And last but not least is kind of what Councilor Williams talked about with the netting. And I know that I don't vote unless it's a tie, but that would be something that, the school district is here, I see, so I know we're going to hear from them, but that would be something that would be, I think, important. And I get it, we were talking about golf earlier. You see homes along golf courses and stuff, and there's netting, and each property owner puts up their own netting. But in this case, it would be nice to be proactive and get that in there beforehand. And I hadn't thought about, working with the school district to see about if it could go on their property or not, on that. But we have a resident expert in here on softball and baseball, so as far as what the height would need to be, things like that. But that, I think, would be an important, at least in my opinion. And again, I don't typically vote, but I think that is an important thing to note, to try to be proactive on that. So those are all of my questions. Did anybody else have any other questions that came up? Councilor Register, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Okay, so next up to testify is Clay Brown. And so Clay, if you could just state your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Clay Brown, 20616 Antrim Drive in Greenleaf. My history goes back with the Dennises, the people that own this property. I was involved in the transaction when we sold this about 3 years ago. To answer your question, Mr. Mayor, there is an easement, a 28-foot easement that is a recorded document. It is a legal document. So before we closed, we wanted to make sure we had all that in place for the Dennises. And it does have the language in there that once there is another alternative route established, especially for emergency vehicles or if they should need to get back to the Dennises during the development phase, that would be provided. So I'm just here in the interest of the Dennises. They are, they've built in '65, so they saw all that happen, the YMCA, the high school, the Brothers Park, and so but again, in support of the development, and everybody's using the word infill, as a realtor, a broker, I believe in that too, so I like the use, I like the package. Traffic density, those are things I'm gonna leave up to the experts. But, anyway, that was, I didn't want to speak out from the audience, but yes, we do have an easement that is established for the Dennises until something else can be provided for them, and the applicant can probably address that too. That was important to us. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, it's nice to see a little piece of ground like this get used wisely, in Caldwell. And so I just wanted to get up and Zion's Ventures have been excellent to work with, very flexible, very accommodating, so I have appreciated working with them too, so. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Brown?
I was just gonna ask if he knew whether there was utilities in that easement.
Okay, yes.
I think Mr. Dennis's biggest concern was there was a wastewater easement that I understand for not just themselves, but the neighbors. That might be in reference to that tile. So I think Mr. Dennis was concerned. I know that it was brought up during the whole negotiation process that there was concern about how they were gonna address the wastewater. I think it's the neighbors that would be south of what used to be Helena. I think some of their wastewater came across and went down. I think there was a ditch there that got tiled, so, that's something that I'm sure will need to be addressed and fixed, during the development or prior to the development.
Okay. And Councilor Williams has a question.
Thank you,
as
Mr.
well.
Mayor. Mr. Brown, since you have a document that no one else seems to have, it's problematic to me that we're told there isn't an easement and you have one. So do you have a reference number that you can provide for us so that we can at least have the same thing you have?
Yeah, 2021.
Is this the instrument number? Was it recorded?
Yeah, it was recorded.
Okay, so then this is the instrument number you're given right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Instrument number is, so it's 2021-054541.
Perfect. So yeah, with that number, we can easily get that from the county.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And it looks like it was recorded August 4th of 21.
perfect, excellent. Thank you so much, appreciate that. Riley Verner had signed up in support, but to not testify, is that correct? Okay. Excellent. Okay, so that is all in favor or neutral. So now we will move to opposition. We do have two, people signed up in opposition. Dr. Shalene French, if you'll come forward. If you could state your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony as well.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Shalene French, 1502 Fillmore, Superintendent, Caldwell School District. And I need to clarify, it's not necessarily in opposition, but we do need to take an opportunity to meet with the developer and complete the conversation. So we haven't had an agreement on a walking path, and we do feel that's an important part of this, so that families and children can access Brother Park, can walk to Caldwell High School if they're a student there, and then also walk to the YMCA. And at this time, we haven't come to an agreement on what that would look like, and we're taking into consideration, we thought about walkway down along the baseball field, but we do have some things in place that we can't move, like a 6-foot water line, a main line that's irrigating that whole field in the back that we just installed last summer. And we also are concerned about lighting along that pathway, what that would look like. So for safety reasons, cameras in that area, it is, as you may know, there are opportunities for people to maybe vandalize property back in there, and we just want to make sure that's been addressed. And then we also would like to visit about busing and how students will be picked up, where they'll be picked up. Will they be picked up in the subdivision, on Florida, and what does that look like for elementary age students? And then we would want to be able to visit with our board members about a pathway, if it indeed included some property from the Caldwell School District to build out. And with that, I would stand for questions unless you have none.
Perfect. Well, I've got a couple, then I'll
Okay.
ask them. So, any questions from council for Dr. French? Councilor Dittenberg?
Mr. Mayor, Dr. French, I think I saw on one of Katie's slides a little color depiction of what may have been an alternate path. Did you suggest an alternate path to this process?
We have suggested a few, but it didn't necessarily include taking away part of our baseball field access. So what the path with the purple, it does move into our baseball area, that varsity field, and that would it just, I mean, you're getting, now we're bumping up to the clubhouse, or the dugout. The main line is right there, and, it was presented, but that's one that we could not necessarily agree to. And we need to know what the developers, what is their proposal, what are they doing, and we can see there's some things that they're suggesting. But to take away from the baseball field, there's just not enough, there's not enough space there, and we really haven't had a chance to go out and measure it, yet. So, yeah, okay.
Any other questions, Councilor Denver? Any other questions from Councilor? So mine are pretty easy. So you'd mentioned, I just wanted to confirm this, a water line. I'm guessing it's an irrigation line, and I'm guessing that's private to the school, correct? I didn't see it on our map, so I just want to make sure that was one that you put in to irrigate for yours that runs along the back there.
That's correct.
Okay. And then was there any concerns? I know John's not here tonight, so I know he works long, late hours anyway, so hopefully he's getting rest at home.
Oh, yeah.
Did he voice any concerns about like a netting that he thought might be needed because of the baseball fields there in the homes, or did that ever come up?
That did not come up, although, that would be wise, because we do know that foul balls do fly out to that section. And we would just want the developer, if that were, we could work with them, but we would expect the developer to pay for that, that install. But that does take up space along that walkway, or that section right there along the baseball field, on the first base side.
Perfect. And just, not a question, but just a comment, John Halleck, who's the athletic director, was named the athletic director for the state of Idaho. So,
yes,
doing an amazing job there at Caldwell High. He's just a great guy, super smart, and I mean, he is dedicated to what he does, so he does an awesome job. So, okay, and that's all that I had. Thank you so much. And then Mr. Webster. So if you could state your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes as well.
Paul Webster, Caldwell School District, 1502 Fillmore. And I'll keep it pretty brief. I don't have a lot to add to what Dr. French shared. Thanks for considering this carefully. I think there's a lot to like about this. It's a place I'd like to live, and it's a great place to put housing. I think we are pro-housing. Families in Caldwell need great places to live. But we're also pro-kids, we're pro-families, and we're pro-schools. And I hope you, and I'm sure you do, understand our need to limit where kids and the public access our campus for safety. And so we have 3 locations on that campus where we expect people to come in. And so, of course, you have the big entrance off of Indiana on the west side, and that's the furthest from this. We have the south from Brothers Park, like the parking lot area, have some openings there from Brothers Park. And then the northeast corner of Caldwell High campus, where George Avenue and Spruce comes in, is also an entrance, and that comes in from the neighborhood just to the north of this. And that's a great place to enter campus. We tried to make that clear when we met with them, and we in January, and brainstormed some ideas, paths along the canal and so forth. We haven't heard back really since that time, and so I was surprised to see that it came up on the agenda tonight. My thought is that if we don't plan for routes to school, then either kids will make them themselves, or all of us will end up fixing them later. And so that might be sidewalks up Florida, until we get to sidewalks in that subdivision. It might be looking at a better path along the canal, or negotiating a path to Brothers Park, because it's right there. And really families and kids want to get to that. They want to get to the Y, but as it's designed, they can't, unless they go all the way around U-Stick and down. We really don't want that. And so there really isn't a good way to do that. And I just think, we can probably work that out. But, yeah, it's something we need to plan for. I would be happy to stand for questions.
Any questions from the counselors? Okay, very good, excellent, thank you so much. Before we go back to the, developer for their rebuttal, Mr. Brown, oh, sorry, your time's up. Or is that for me, for my time up? Mr. Brown, maybe just a quick question, I don't know if you'll be able to answer it or not, in regards to the easement on that, does it end, could you maybe pull up the plat again? Or, well, I should maybe go to the aerial, sorry. So, right, and you may need to follow along with the mouse so those that online or at home can see where I'm pointing. So does that easement end right here at this corner, or does it extend, all the way up to what would be Georgia Avenue along the south portion of that existing home?
Where you first stopped, that's as far as it
Right
goes.
there,
Correct.
okay. So if a pathway were to continue up to here sometime in the future, there'd have to be an easement from whoever this new property owner is that correct?
Well, it's currently still the Dennis's property.
Oh, do they still own that property?
They still live there, and they intend to live there. That's kind of why I'm just looking out for their best interest too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something they didn't want, I don't think, is a bunch of kids going across their property, just like somebody said, if we don't create a path, they'll make their own path, and I think I'm concerned about that for the Dennis's, that they exit the property through the subdivision and not through the Dennis's property, so.
Yeah, okay, perfect, excellent, thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, so that is, as I mentioned, everyone that's signed up.
Same thing, I wondered if we could fence a pathway so they weren't wandering around, but right onto Brothers, that trail there, 'cause.
Yeah, there's a possibility to get in there, so. Okay, excellent, so, yes, if you please come back, and if you could just state your name again for the record, and then you'll have, 5 minutes for your rebuttal testimony.
Thank you, Mayor. Emily Mueller, 839 South Bridgeway Place. Wonderful. Well, thank you for letting me table a couple of those questions earlier. First, regarding the access easement to our neighbor, I did not mean to say that there wasn't an access easement. There definitely is an access easement agreement with them. But however, we do have the right to reconfigure their roadway. So certainly we will abide by that. We will stub them with the access that they need. So I just wanted to make that clear and apologize for any miscommunication earlier. Additionally, we will reroute any utilities that are underneath that easement. We will be bringing utilities anyway in the street, so we'll certainly reroute any utilities and take care of any of those concerns. So I just wanted to, I don't have that easement with me, but we do have an agreement and we'll definitely abide by that. And it's my understanding that they don't have any issues with where we are proposing to route the new roadway. With regards to the pathways, and Katie, I don't know if we could bring back up one of the pathway maps. We did meet with the school district and discussed really 3 different pathway options that we wanted to offer to provide. The first was really what staff is providing now, and it was on the last sheet that you had, Katie, I think. Let's see, because it was the old plat that showed a stub to the baseball fields. And we discussed being willing to, and we would be willing as staff.
Do you want to hold on just
of
a
course.
while we get this pulled up?
Yeah. Yes, right there. Okay, so that was our old plat, with lot 24 along the northern boundary, saying that we could provide that stub. And as staff presented today, we think that there would be enough room to provide a short pathway stubbing over to Brothers Park. That would be the minimal invasive on the school district's property. It would still be secure because there would be a fence. And what happened after that conversation is that, so we had suggested that too, and staff, I think, went out to view that area, and we still saw that as a feasible option. So, we presented that, as well as the pathway along the eastern boundary. So, and then both of the, stubs along the western boundary, where you can see lot 34, and then along Jayhawk Creek 39. And what I recognize is that those 2 stubs don't get us to Brothers pathway yet. However, this subdivision is the next and second to last piece of that domino to make that connection. So what we would suggest is that really, I mean, again, if this doesn't get developed, then we're, again, 13 acres away from providing that eventual pathway for even students outside our boundary to be able to walk to school that way. So, unfortunately, we don't own the property to our west. We don't own the property. The only other alternatives that we had understood that the school district had wanted was to do sidewalks. That was shown on one of Katie's other slides, one of staff's other slides, and there's just not the right of way to do that. So we really have tried to provide lots of different options, lots of different stubs, and really hope that that is something then we're providing all of the options on our property, and then the school district can go back and meet to see which ones they want. So we're amenable to a condition that if the school wants to grant an easement, we can go put that fence in there and create a safe and secure walking path to get to Brothers Park, and it really would be a minimal amount of space. So we're happy to have that as a condition to continue to allow that stub there. If it comes back and that's the best option. Otherwise, our plat as proposed, we think provides the necessary future stubs to make that a long-term great plan. Finally, I was able to talk about the screening for the baseball, and we would be amenable to a condition that we would pay for screening on the existing baseball field on the school district's property, if that's something that they would want to accept. We would like to do that instead of putting it on the residents' property, which then would require like an easement and an agreement from all the neighbors, and then they would all have to contribute to the cost of the net, like repairs and that sort of thing. So we'd rather and have all of their agreement, because it would be on a lot of different property owners' backyards. We would be happy to contribute to and bear that cost of putting the net up on the baseball side. So I think those are the three things that I wanted to touch on, and will again stand for questions or more discussion on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank
Questions? Councilor Doty?
Maybe a couple questions and a couple comments. So it doesn't sound like even the school district's opposed to the development, but I'm certainly concerned if they're standing up in front of us, right, and saying we would like to talk to you some more about the pathway. So I'm not quite sure how we make a condition based on if the school district agrees or doesn't agree, and maybe Mr. Hilty can help us out with that. So I think people like your proposal here, but I also respect my school district that says, hey, we'd like another conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can make that a condition, great, but if we can't, are you willing to postpone this or have us vote tonight? I think it'd be better for you to either postpone it if we can word the condition that the school district signs off on what you're doing.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilman, thank you. I think that there is a condition with wording that we could agree on, and I think that would be, we've talked with staff about it at length, would be that we would we would meet staff's suggested pathway proposal, but we don't want to put it there if the school district doesn't want it. So I think really that's the only feasible proposal. As we is providing that new access point on that lot 24 as we previously had. So I think the condition would be to provide, and I think staff maybe went over it a little bit earlier, but wording it so that we would provide a pathway and construct a fence and the pathway to Brothers Park along in the northwest boundary. Regarding the alternative, there really isn't an alternative. The alternative would be working out an access on the eastern side to where they said where those water lines are, and we've already provided access there. So we've met that. Again, after we met with the school district, staff went out and walked this, and we have since then met all of staff's requests, which is to provide that stub on the eastern boundary. So I do think that we could work on that condition. I think that would be a really clear, simple condition regarding providing an access and connection to Brothers Park as indicated by staff.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So just to comment on what you said, it didn't seem that clear to me from the school district, though, even though it seems pretty clear to you. And even, I don't want to take anything away from our staff, but they don't represent the school district. So I just want to ensure that the school district, it isn't all or nothing, like they have to agree because you have the best plan and you've worked out everything they said. It's clear to me that they are still concerned and maybe not as clear as you are on the path. And so I just want to make sure that all that is worked out with the school district.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and you could definitely word, like I said, either you could postpone of that, or you could do a condition, something of, you know, typically you're concerned about if it's a private individual that may try to, if you, basically you're giving them the authority to approve or to deny it if you have to work with a private, but it's obviously our school district, we have great faith in them, but you could put a condition of, you know, that within 90 days you shall come to an agreement with the school regarding access to and from the school grounds, something of that nature, and that way, if there isn't something met within those 90 days, they could come back and say, look, we've tried, this is what we propose, and the school district could come back as well and discuss that option. So that could be a possible condition, something like that. So, Councilor Allgood, do you have a question?
Yeah, Noah, could you pull up the slide again with just the layout of the subdivision, the roadways and things? That's perfect. So, where Jayhawk Street comes out in the corner there, is that just, that doesn't go anywhere, that's just fenced off? What is that street just going to be like a dead end right there, or what's that gonna look like?
Mayor and Councilman, yes, that would be a dead end. So, if the neighboring owner would prefer to have a fence there, you know, they could certainly fence that. If there's some reason they don't want to take access where they've always taken access, which is right at that spot. And because we are also providing them, access via lot 27 on that shared driveway. So it would just be a dead-end street, and it would stub to their property in exactly the location that Helena Drive currently stubs to their property.
Gotcha, so those two residents would use that would be their driveway, basically?
Yes, yep, it'd be their driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Register.
So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about what Councilor Doty said as well. It's not that I'm against the project by any means, but I do have some concerns, even more so than the school district, but I do have a problem with the lack of communication. And one of the things that one of the speakers said was that they haven't heard back from the developer. And I think that if we approve something with a condition and there's already been some communication issues, it makes me nervous about how that's going to go. So as far as I'm concerned, I agree with Councilor Doty in the respect for the school district, not just with the walkway, but the safety issues, the netting. And then, of course, we have this easement that we're trying to sort out, all of that kind of stuff. I do believe that this is something they should work out and bring back, and that our council meeting is not a place for them to, you know, kind of fill in all the blanks that have been missed. And when they're prepared, then come back and do this again. So that's kind of where I'm standing right now.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Councilor Register. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Morgan, did you have a comment?
Mr. Mayor, Morgan Bissaw, Planning and Zoning staff. I would like to point out that staff has worked with the applicant to draft some draft conditions regarding the pathway that we would like to run potentially by the school district or yourself, since you were thinking of how best to draft this condition. So the language that staff proposed was that staff recommends that condition 6 be added to say, the applicant shall construct an accessible pathway as approved by the city within a public access easement through the southwest corner of the school property to Brothers Park. If no easement is granted for this voluntary pathway by December 31st, 2024, then this condition is no longer applicable. So this would give the applicant and the school district roughly 9 months, 10 months to work on the language and sign an easement for this pathway. And hopefully 10 months would be sufficient time. Regarding the applicant not following through with the communication to the school district, I do believe it was a misunderstanding. Directly following the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there was a meeting between city staff, the school district, and the applicant quite promptly within 5 days. At the end of that meeting, we understood that the school district was not interested in having the pathway on their property and had not realized that they were expecting further follow-up. Once we received new comments from the school district last night, we have been in constant communication today, trying to resolve the issue. So,
Okay, thank you so much. Councilor Williams, you have a question?
Yeah, Morgan, just to be sure I'm understanding that, so your proposal in your language is if they can't meet an agreement, then, condition number 6 is what? Help me
it
understand
would
that.
no longer be applicable. The fear would be that if we put a condition in here that said that they had to construct a pathway on the school's property, obviously we don't want to force the school district to do something that they don't want. So we don't want to have a condition requiring the pathway on the school property. We would like to reach an agreement, and put a specific date and time when, if we can't come to an agreement, then we sort of walk away from that condition. The council does, of course, have the opportunity as well to continue this meeting to another city council date, say in 4 weeks, to allow them time to work on it as well.
And I appreciate that. I particularly am not fond of continuances only because they cost money, and it's everybody's money, really. So I almost prefer the mayor's recommendation that there be some time period where it's required that an agreement be reached, or then it does come back to us. So that way, everybody's feet are to the fire, so to speak. I don't like leaving it open, but I'd like to see us push it forward with some sort of a teeth in the program, as my father-in-law likes to say.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant before we? Council Register, did you have any other questions for the applicant, the developer?
I don't, thank you.
Okay, perfect, excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Okay, with that, then I would stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic. And in regards to closing the public testimony portion of this hearing, again, staff is always available, but this would close the testimony from the public that is here. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That does close the public testimony portion of this hearing. And that then turns it into your hands for discussion, deliberation. If you have any questions of staff, and any motions as well.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Williams.
As has been said, I like the project. I like the use of the infill property. I'm always sympathetic to the people that are concerned about it. If not this, then what? I don't think R1 makes good sense here. So I don't think a different development here is going to change the concerns or the needs of this property. And 13 acres are a challenge to develop in any circumstance. So I'd like to just speed this along and try to make a motion here if I could, and then we could continue our discussion. Based upon the testimony and evidence and record in this matter, and upon the finding of facts and conclusions of law, I move that ANN 22-27 for annexation of parcel R2744201,000 with a zoning designation of medium-density residential with a development agreement, SUB 22-44 and PUD 23-11 for Jayhawk Creek subdivision, a residential planned unit development, be approved with the condition that within 90 days, an agreement is reached with the school district regarding the pathway and regarding the placement of the net, and that the placement of the net and the pathway are requirements of this proposal moving forward, otherwise it comes back to the council.
And so that would be an additional condition to the ones within the staff report, correct?
Yes, thank you.
And if I could just real quick, does the staff report have because they had stated about the residential fire sprinklers, is there a condition in there stating that they must have residential fire sprinklers in those homes, since they proposed that?
Mayor and council, there isn't a direct condition that states that, but there is an overarching condition that they either have to have secondary access or fire suppression system. So in turn, that would make it so they wouldn't be able to get past the next permitting phase of construction drawings, et cetera, without that being caught up.
on it. And I don't know your thoughts, but since they had proposed it, I said I don't want to force that on somebody, but somebody proposed it, it may be good to clarify that you will put those in since you said you were going to do it.
Thank you, and I had understood that it was a requirement because of the single access, that the fire would require that, and so they recognized that, and it was documented in the packet. So if it needs to be further delineated, I'm happy to amend my motion to include that would be number 7 then? Or is it even necessary? I
think it is, but I mean, it's your motion, so just so it's very clear, because you could always come in with a secondary
Sure, so
access
let's
and
just
it goes
add
away.
number 7, that fire sprinklers as indicated in the packet would be mandatory.
And not that you wouldn't do what you said, but we've seen it before, so it just clarifies it, it's in there, so, okay. Okay, so that is a motion, again, for approval, with the conditions as outlined in the staff report, and then the addition of the condition of that, as stated by the applicant, they will install the fire sprinklers, within the residential homes, and then also that they will work with the school district, come up with some solutions within 90 days in regards to netting, for protection of the houses from the baseball fields, and then also in connection of pathways on that. If there's no final decision between the two within 90 days, and that would come back to the council for their review to see where that's at and where it goes from there. Does that more or less sound? Yes, Councilor Doty?
Do we need to make the 90 days a date certain, or 90 days from today, 90 working days, 90?
Good point. I would say 90 days from the signing of the FCOs. So that's the finding of the fact conclusions, the law and order decision. That basically finalizes everything, and then that's kind of typical to go off of that date. Does that sound appropriate, Mr. Hilty?
Yeah, it does. I'm only thinking that, if that becomes necessary, it's gonna have to be renoticed if we don't continue it to a date and time certain. So chances are they're resolved here in the next week, right? So it's a little hard to forecast. I think it's probably likely they'll reach agreement, but I think just so everybody's aware, if we don't set it for a date and time certain, it'll have to be renoticed if it comes back for further consideration.
Yeah, I think that'd be okay. So we would just renotice that out, so, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Register.
any stipulation on the for those people?
Sorry, you broke up right in the middle there. Could you say that one more time?
I'm sorry, does there need to be any kind of stipulation on the easement for the Dennis's?
So for them, where like Helena Drive is right now, to make sure they can still get back to their property, is that the kind of the section you're talking about?
Well, there's an easement, right? Is what we had just found out, that there was an easement there for that property back there? Does there need to be anything cleared up on that, or is it clear?
So I think it's clear. So there is, as was stated, a 28-foot easement that states that this easement is in existence until such time as public access is provided in the future. So with the public road providing still from A to B, it is a little meandering, but that does meet and suffice what the easement appears to have been. So will have a public road to get back to where they're at. So I think it suffices on that. Haley, do you agree? I know you're sorry to catch you when you're talking, but any concerns on that? Do you feel that they still have that adequate access to get through back to their homes in regards to that easement?
Yes, it sounds like the easement is just written with flexibility to maintain access, but not maintain the exact same access location. And so it appears that they are going to continue to have the access, and the applicant has already stated that they will reroute any utilities that are required to be rerouted through that access point.
Perfect, excellent. Does that answer your question, Councilor Register?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, anything else from, I think,
I'll second it.
okay, so yes,
It's
sir.
totally clear to everybody.
Okay. I think so, for the most part. So that's a motion from Councilor Williams, as was stated, previously. We're not gonna go through it again. I think it's on the record. And then a second from Councilor Doty, and that is for approval with those conditions as outlined with the 2 additional, requirements, in regards to what was discussed earlier. Discussion on that motion, Councilor Denver.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I wanted to thank the school district for showing up. Dr. French, Mr. Phillips, and Mr. Webster. We don't get to see them here frequently. And so when we take a look at where schools are built historically, way out in the country, and then all of a sudden residents start encroaching on them, we now have this kind of blended community that we've really dreamt about, right? Housing being near school. So, I appreciate their security concerns and hope that in the 90 days, this is resolved, because school safety is also community safety, and safe routes to school is safe routes to school from point A to point B. So I appreciate them being here, and I really hope that the developer can see to make this work. And I'm hoping, Dr. French, maybe you can give me a thumbs up since testimony's been closed. Is this a 60-minute discussion, or? Okay, it's a 60-minute discussion. Okay. That's all I got to say.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on that motion? Councilor Register, do you have any discussion on that motion?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, very good. So then with that, the voting is open. Again, this is for a motion for approval of the development with the conditions as outlined. There we go. They're just warming up. It's the first time we use them. Okay, so the motion, or all votes were cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously, with all council members voting in favor. Motion to close this public hearing item.
So moved.
Second.
So it's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard to close this public hearing item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. That moves us into our next item. And we do appreciate, just want to echo the sentiments of everyone that's here, especially the school district coming in and being here to voice your concerns, and hopefully you feel that they were heard on that. So we appreciate council taking that into consideration. Okay, and that moves us into action item number 2. This is housekeeping item for the annexation. We're required to have a bill and ordinance for that to finalize the annexation process. So do we have a sponsor of bill number 86?
Mayor.
Yes.
I'll sponsor bill number 86, ordinance number 3480, and request its passage by title only and approve the summary for publication.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for the adoption of the, bill 86, ordinance 3480. Any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So now the fly in the ointment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if in 90 days, this doesn't get reached to an agreement and this all gets backed out, we will have already annexed this property into the city. So is there a clean way out of this, Mr. Hilty?
Well, and I'll look at my fellow staff. I mean, my reaction would be that the annexation would stand, and then the conditions all stand as well. And so remember, your condition, you got lots of conditions that they're gonna have to meet as they go forward, right? One of them is you've got to work out this agreement with the school. And if you can't work it out, it comes back here for further consideration. But it will be annexed at that point and subject to whatever the council determines as further consideration. The alternative would be to hold the ordinance until there's evidence of agreement, and that could be, of course, this is not, the hearing is conducted, so you could bring back the ordinance at a future time. But I think that this is appropriate procedure, because I think the council sounds like they're generally in favor of the development. We just have an issue to be worked out. If it's worked out between the two, great, they'll notify staff and things will move forward. If it's not worked out, it's coming back to you anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on that motion? Okay, so with that, then the voting is open. All votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. That moves us into action item number 3, to consider the request by Melanie Davis of Devco Development on behalf of the Domes Church Apartments. Oh, this is the vacation, but didn't we just hear this last week? So this is for the vacation of that right-of-way that was discussed. Very good. We do have one person on Zoom, but Rob, if you want to go ahead and just bring us back up to speed on this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is almost a housekeeping item, but it is a vacation of an easement, and so, or vacation of right-of-way, I should say. What this is going through the formal process to vacate public right-of-way. Requires notice, it requires a public hearing, and then after those things have happened, then City Council has the prerogative to approve a vacation. This development was presented 2 weeks ago, and the vacation or the proposal to vacate this right-of-way was all part of the plan that they had proposed, and so this is shouldn't be a surprise Just a reminder, in case you're wondering, this is on page 488 of your packet. That shows the exhibit of the vacation. The right-of-way up in that area is very awkward and, frankly, it doesn't serve any purpose to be used as public right-of-way. There is a sewer line in the right-of-way, which would be converted into an easement and still be accessible to the city. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Rob? Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then we have Melanie Davis, I believe, on Zoom. Melanie, are you there? And if not, that is all right. I think Rob's provided us adequate information on that. So, oh, she is. Are you there, Melanie?
This is Melanie Davies.
Okay, Melanie, if you don't mind.
I didn't have any comments. I was.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Do you mind
just available for questions?
Do you mind just stating your name and address just for the record real quick?
Yes. Melanie Davies, 96 Shining Mountains Loop Road, Ennis, Montana, on behalf of Devco Development.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any questions for Melanie from council? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, but there's no questions for you at this time. Okay, so with that, I'd stand for a motion to close public testimony.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
We got a motion from Councilor Stodic, second from Councilor Doty. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. And then I believe that moves us now into the next one, right? Action number 4 for the actual bill and ordinance on that. Okay, do we have a sponsor of bill and ordinance 153577?
Mr. Mayor, is that what it is?
That is. So this is just to vacate that right away as described by Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor bill number 15, ordinance number 3577, and move for its passage.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. So it's a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Williams for the passage of bill number 15, ordinance number 3577. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. That moves us into action item number 5, Bill 16, Ordinance 3578 for amendments to Caldwell City Code pertaining to public noise and exceptions with a request to move for its passage. Who gets to do this one? Is this you, Mr. Hilty? Oh, is this a code enforcement issue? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Pretty straightforward ordinance carving out an exception from the general noise ordinance for events at the Caldwell Event Center, which is...
Is that mic on? Sorry. Yeah, it is. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I must be getting old.
So, again, generally, late night noise prohibited in the city. This is carving out an exception for events at the Caldwell Event Center. The louder noises would be prohibited past the typical 11 o'clock cutoff until 1 a.m. Friday nights and Saturday nights only. And again, the Caldwell Event Center would be bounded by 21st on the north and Linden on the south, railroad tracks on the east, and Cleveland Boulevard on the west. Fair, rodeo, baseball, football, those are the facilities, of course, that are there. With that, I'd stand for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any questions from council? For council? Our legal counsel?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hilty, is there a, noisy is kind of a gradient thing, right? And, you know, I once got a ticket for driving a loud boat up in, like Redfish Lake.
That was you?
We all are loud.
After he pulled me over for the dust I created getting the boat in there. So what's the, what declares something loud?
Yeah, good question. We're not amending that portion of the ordinance, and it says what is prohibited during those hours are quote unquote louder offensive noise. You'll see this up in the first subsection on the bill. That which is plainly audible within any place of residence, business, hospital, farm property with animals or restaurants other than the source of the sound at a distance of 150 feet or more from the source of such sound. Yeah, there's in terms of ordinances that speak to decibel levels and so forth, it doesn't have that. That's the definition.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Hilty. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, then, do we have a bill or a sponsor of this bill and ordinance, or any discussion on it as well? So. Staring contest.
We would. Sorry, I had moved on to the next one.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor Denber.
I'll, sponsor bill number 16, ordinance number 3578 for the amendments to the city code within chapter 7, article 13.
Very good, and that would include for request to move for its passage and approve summary for publication?
That is correct.
Okay, do we have a second? Very good, so we have a motion from Counselor Denber and a second from Counselor Williams for adoption of bill number 17, ordinance number 3579. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. All votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. And that moves us into, let me make sure I'm at the right. Okay, number 6, yes, thank you. This is for action item number 6, consider Bill 17, Ordinance 3579, amendments to the Caldwell City Code pertaining to parking. Mr. Hilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you'll recall, there's work done last fall on the city's parking ordinance generally, and that was largely in anticipation of paid parking downtown. As a result, we kind of reviewed the general parking ordinance, and this is a tweak to that. There's an issue that's come up in the interim where staff feels like having an additional tool to deal with, sort of unsightly, inoperable vehicles that wind up being parked in driveways or on the public road could be dealt with at least by a ticket. That maybe will or won't solve the problem, but at least it's another tool. And so this is coming forward, I think, from code enforcement. Specifically, the amendment to existing code has 2 places. One is in definitions, where you'll see a definition for wrecked, dismantled, or inoperative vehicle or part thereof, hereinafter called what I think we would all typically refer to it as a junk motor vehicle. So it's defined as to what it is, and then it is added to the list of parking violations that may result in the issuance of a ticket. That's all this ordinance does, and I would stand for questions.
Good. Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Yes, Councilor Doty.
Is the chief paying attention back there? Chief
Ingram.
Have you reviewed this, ordinance to ensure it fits the correct, thank you. That's it.
I'm gonna give him a break, so we have 2 chiefs back there, so you may have thought you were
I was
talking to
looking
Chief
at-
Raleigh, so. Okay, very good, excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Stoddick.
Mr. Hilty, maybe the chief can answer this. This wouldn't affect, like, if we had construction downtown, say on Main Street, where the utility trucks back their vehicles backwards into the parking area so they can unload would that affect that any at all? Okay.
No, that wouldn't meet the definition of a junk vehicle.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councilor Williams with a question.
Just to be clear, I think it is clear, but I want to hear it from you. It cannot be in somebody's driveway. It has to be in their garage. And so if a junk vehicle, as we have deemed it, sits in their driveway and is not in a garage or other building, so it's on private property now, this ordinance will authorize us to ticket it?
Yeah, and I'm looking at subsection C of the definition, is not in a garage or other building. So yeah, if it's in a driveway, or a yard, or whatever, it could be ticketed.
Gives me a little bit of pause.
So, and I don't know if this helps or not, but the first thing I thought of was weeds, because weeds are on private property. We ticket people for that or require them to cut them if they get to a certain height. And again, I don't know if but that was the thing that popped in my head too on that, was in regards to, we do it for other things, not just for vehicles. If it's excessive garbage, things like that, if there's somebody puts a mattress or a couch in their front yard, they will get ticketed for things of that nature as well. So I don't know if that helps or not, but that was just what I had thought of on that. So yes, Councilor, all good?
So this is really not for a discussion for tonight. but I would like to address it in the future. When I was doing police work, it's kind of the broken windows theory. You have junk laying around it. So having worked with code enforcement recently, particularly junk vehicles, there's a hesitancy to do anything with a junk vehicle because of the cost is prohibitive. That junk vehicle is worth $50 at a crusher. Tow truck doesn't want to go out there. City doesn't want to pay the cost, and this junk vehicle sits. And I would love for us to, in the future, with the chief and if Sylvia, if she's still doing that, to come to some kind of resolution. One of them I dealt with recently was someone just pulled a motorhome out onto the street and left it. It wasn't worth $50, but it sat on the street with the door swinging open for days and days because we didn't want to touch it because the expense was so, dealing with this. But it's something that I believe we need to address in the future, because again, having junk on our streets is not acceptable. So, anyway, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
just to add to
Councilor
that, then we should make some sort of provision in the future, either an account or fund, or it comes out of the police, much like my past experience as well too. Sometimes you just got to pay those tow bills if we want to get the stuff off the street. So there is a misdemeanor charge. It's not very often followed up on to try and find who the registered owner is, and then that one sold it to someone else that abandoned it on the street. But it definitely is an expense, but I think it's worth looking at where that needs to come from in the budget.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Councilor Williams?
Sorry, thanks. I'm
No.
still stuck on it. I understand it and it makes sense to me, but I'm thinking about the guy who has project cars or he's a hobbyist. They're not, they don't have a registration and a license because he's rebuilding the car, and we come along and say, because it doesn't have that and it's in your driveway, you're gonna get a ticket and it's gonna get towed. I'm struggling with this one, and if I vote no, it's gonna be because of that provision right there.
I don't think it says it gets towed though, right? It could get a ticket, and then we would determine whether or not to tow it, right?
Or Chief?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Williams, I think the intent behind this is not to target the hobbyist or the enthusiast. This is to go after the, like Councilor Allgood said, the quality of life issues, the broken window theory behind, we all know there's several homes in Caldwell that people just, there's usually drugs there's involved, there's prostitution involved, there's all types of other things that are involved. And this will give us the tools to be able to go after those quality of life homes and basically enforce a law that has never been here.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Chief. Makes sense. I wish it was that clear in the ordinance so that we don't have a misunderstanding later on. Because if the tires are flat and the windows are broken and nothing's been done to it for a year,
right,
that's a different story than if I have a neighbor or a friend who's got 3 Chevy pickups that are all antiques, and he's slowly working on them and combining them, and it could fall under this code that we're considering here tonight. And so that's just where I'm having heartburn. A little bit of personal property rights maybe still in my mind, but I 100% agree with the sentiment behind the ordinance and 100% support it. I wish it was as clear as you just stated.
Well, and I appreciate those comments, sir. The truth is, Caldwell PD is far too busy to deal with people that are, building their cars and stuff. And I can speak as the chief. We, just the call volume itself, we increased our calls for service last year compared to 2022 by over 5,000 radio calls. And so we need some sort of tool, just like the mandatory minimum fentanyl bill that just got passed in the legislature. We need something to be able to go out and for those specific issues in our community to deal with those specific problems. We don't have the resources to drive around and, go after your neighbor if he's building a hot rod. We just simply can't do it. But this will allow us to selectively enforce the law that is creating a nuisance in a neighborhood that we never had the ability to do before. And that's my guarantee as the chief to you, sir.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go for it.
I move
Mr.
for
Mayor.
the
just if it helps, Jeff, most of our ordinance, many of our ordinances, particularly law enforcement ordinances, there's got to be some level of discretion, right, for the officers, right? We just passed one on noise. There's no specific decibel level, but you sure know when you've got a problem that's going to blossom into, a potential conflict, right? You've got to have the tools to address it, and so maybe that's soft comfort, but there is always discretion typically in how the enforcement of it goes along.
Thank you, Mr. Good. And Councilor Register, did you have a comment?
I do. I'm just curious, does this extend to like boats and RVs, or is it strictly vehicles?
Mr. Hilty?
It extends, let me look at that was certainly the intent. Yeah, it applies to vehicles broadly. Motor vehicles. So yeah, I don't know about boats. I think that was
a motor.
The intent. It does have a motor. Right. I don't know if it meets the definition of motor vehicle.
Oh.
You have a definition of motor vehicle in the city ordinance? I'm guessing
I
we
think
do.
we do. So.
Yeah. Good question, Councilor Register. We could certainly take a look at that.
I also, I have a little bit of echo there, but I do agree with this because I do understand from a crime prevention point of view, how this can help with the whole broken window theory, like Councilor Allgood was talking about. I also understand Councilor Williams' concerns, and I think so that the hobbyists and things like that, they're usually pretty good about covering their cars and stuff like that. And I think really what's going to initiate a ticket is probably a neighbor complaint anyway. So I'm very comfortable with it.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Okay, I think Councilor Doty was ready to make a motion.
Tried a couple times. I can go at it
we
again.
Cleared the plate for
sure?
you. Go for it.
All right. I move for the passage of Bill number 17, ordinance number 3579, and approve for this summary for publication.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty, second from Councilor Dittenber for adoption of Bill number 17, ordinance number 3579. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And moves us to action item number 7. Here comes Ray Lynn. So this is for accept the tentative budget amendment for fiscal year October 1, 23 and ending September 30th, 24, and set public hearing date for March 19th, 2024 at the regularly scheduled city council meeting, which would be our next scheduled city council meeting. Ray Lynn?
Yes. So this is to set the date for March 19th for a budget amendment. This budget amendment is going to be pretty straightforward, and I'll give you more details on it then of what the number breakdown is, but essentially this budget amendment is for rollover POs because we started using POs as a city, and when we did that, it used to be that we didn't actually budget for them. We just kind of rolled them over and absorb them into the current budget, and so now we're doing a budget amendment to actually add them to the budget, which makes more sense in our departments because the fund balance was added. So that's what we're requesting. So, but I'll go into more detail at the next city council meeting.
Very good. So yes, this is not approving it, just setting the date for the next city council meeting.
That is correct.
Any discussion, questions, or motions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
I move to accept the tentative budget amendment as presented and set the public hearing for March 19th, 2024, the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Williams. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. That moves us on to action item number 8. We got a lot of bill and ordinances tonight. So this again is a housekeeping item for annexation, I believe, into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. So this motion would include all of these bills and ordinances. Bill 18, Ordinance 3580 for Mandalay Ranch. Bill 19, Ordinance 3581 for Passero Ridge. Oh, there's those two. So just would be for those two. Okay. Do we have yes, Councilor Allgood.
I would move that we pass both ordinances as you just described.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion for adoption of these bills and ordinances as described, that basically annex them into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District and moving further passage. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. That moves us to action item number 9, consider resolution adopting Caldwell Municipal Infrastructure Design Manual for the use by the Engineering Department. Ashley, great to have you here with us tonight. I figured you were just here hanging out with us because you enjoyed it so much the last time. So, okay, the time is yours.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, actually there is a typo on this item, which carried all the way from the agenda, the memo, and the resolution. So I wanted to clarify that we are proposing to adopt the 2024 Caldwell Municipal Stormwater Infrastructure Design Manual that would be used in the engineering department for civil drawing plan review. The engineering department staff have reviewed the 2009 Caldwell Municipal Stormwater Manual, and we determined a need for revisions. This new revised manual adds clarity to our design guidelines that were previously confusing or just utilized kind of outdated nomenclature. The revised guide also removed what we found to be excessive factors of safety, which had originally been inserted in there for a higher flood control designation than the city actually exercises or holds at this time. We also looked at a more recent examination of local precipitation, and that showed that there's room to loosen the city's stormwater storage basin volume requirements, and so we are revising that in this draft, or in this final copy. And then the last thing that we are requiring in this manual is that designers will retain a 95% storm event, which is a little over half an inch storm event, in their basin in all instances, and that is a requirement of our NPDES permit for the storm sewer system. So with that, I would stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ashley? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so with that, then, before council is this resolution. So it's a pretty simple one.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Move to approve the resolution adopting the Caldwell Municipal Infrastructure Design Manual.
Good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for adoption of this resolution.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just a correction, it is the stormwater
Infrastructure.
right? So do we want to be clear on your motion?
Just reading the.
I know,
I think the word was up, Caldwell
Stormwater in there?
Caldwell Municipal Stormwater Infrastructure Design
Thank
Manual.
you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, very good. Okay, any discussion on that motion? Okay, voting is open. All votes are cast, voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. That moves us to action item number 10, resolution requesting approval to purchase and install the Bricks Inc. Fire Station Altering System for fire stations 1, 2, and 3. They're drawing straws back there. Who drew the short straw? I thought the chief always had the longest straw, and then everybody else got to pick from the short straw. So, Chief.
We were doing rock, paper, scissors back there for a second, Mr.
You
Mayor.
probably get
Mr.
to
Mayor,
have you here.
Council, thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you tonight. I come with a resolution seeking your approval for a budget amendment for an item that wasn't budgeted in our plan for this year. Canyon County Communications is upgrading the fire station alerting system for all of the fire departments in Canyon County. This Bricks system will create a unified system across all agencies, which will increase our ability to receive calls by reducing dispatch time. As part of that process, there are some upgrades that we want to bring forward to our 3 fire stations that will benefit our firefighters for a more humanistic alerting system. So instead of the big flashing light that comes on when you get a call that, you know, raises your heart rate to about 160, this is more of a cooler, smoother tone and lighting system, and it's all web-based. And so we're very thankful that Canyon County Communications and the county is fronting the lion's share of this cost, this $44,000 in front of you will upgrade the system to a state-of-the-art level that we're going to see in all three of our fire stations. And I stand for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions? Councilor Doty.
Hi, Chief, how are you?
Good, yourself?
I do have one quick question. As Fire Station One moves from where it's currently at, will this system be able to be moved to there, or will you be back again saying?
No, this system will be able to be moved because most of the brain, if you will, is based in the cloud. It's a cloud-based system.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Then, yes.
I was waiting for Councilor Doty to look at Ray Lynn and say, where's the money?
Where's the money coming from? Which pocket?
I was expecting that. Sorry, it threw me off.
Someone that she will speak up if there's something wrong or give me a signal.
I just want to clarify that this is not a budget amendment, so this was not budgeted, so it will have to be included in a budget amendment. It is just an approval for purchase. It will take this fund over budget, but we will include it in a budget amendment at a future date. So.
Okay. All right, excellent.
From fire department funds, correct? From fire department funds. See what you caused?
Remember, right, this is coming out of the capital fund.
Capital
Yes.
fund.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, do we have a motion for the adoption of this resolution?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
It's a motion from Councilor Williams and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of this resolution. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all
You know how
vote-
much it pains us to wake our firefighters up.
all votes are cast, so that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. And that moves us into action item number 11. Danny, appreciate you sticking with us. We probably should have put this up further, but we wanted to see if you really wanted the money, because we're sticking around till the end of the meeting. So this is a resolution authorizing receipt of the alternative fuel rebate in the amount of $38,681 for use of the Idaho Veteran Garden ground. We appreciate you being here. This could have been a consent item, but we wanted to highlight what you do, give the council the ability also to highlight this item. And it was their desire to put this money there, and so excited for them to do that. So, Mr. Puckmeyer, if you don't mind, just real quick on what's going on at the Veteran Garden and how everything's looking.
Things are looking good. I thought maybe that one bill you guys were talking about for abandoned vehicles and stuff, we might be talking directly to us. But we were clearing and getting that situation cleared up. Most of them are vehicles from veterans that are been struggling, but we're gonna have to take a different route for that stuff. So we found another avenue to go with that. So, being that said, we are doing the Idaho Women's Veterans Memorial to honor our local hero, Carrie French. It's for all women and all service members in camaraderie. The statue was built by Benjamin Victor, and it'll be completed in December. And to bring the facility up to the standards of what the statue means and what it represents for our city, that we need to get ground infrastructures in, a drain system. We have no drain system there. We need to get, there's the stuff to make it more of a park, more of a good experience for everybody that comes there, and it's up to the standards of Caldwell, to show that Caldwell cares about its veterans, which they do, and they've shown it many times. But we want that to be clear when people come into town, that they see something that's bigger than all of us, and Carrie French being the first female ever killed in combat. We plan on opening up the park for that statue to be done on June 5th, 2025. The statue will be done in December, but we don't plan on having our ceremony and putting the statue up until 2025 on the 20th anniversary of her death. So that's the plan. That's the money will be used for that purpose, to get that infrastructure going a little bit better and looking a lot better, and getting the facility cleaned up and doing all the stuff that needs to be done. So that'll help a great deal.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Danny. Appreciate all you do. Any questions from council or comments for Danny? Okay, I do want to highlight June, who's here as well. Appreciate her as well.
Last time I didn't introduce her, I had a seizure. So down here in court, and so I'd like to introduce my wife now. June has been a big part of me, dealing with my issues from the military service, which I'm blessed to have participated in the military, but I have some issues that go from it, and that's just what it is. And so this woman's helped me out a lot, and so it's great. She's a great support system for me, and made my life a lot better, so, thanks.
She's awesome. We appreciate you, June.
She's mean too,
everything you
though,
do. So, okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And appreciate you being here too, June. Thank you so much. Okay, so with that, this resolution is before council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doty.
I'd just like to say I'm pretty proud of this council for dedicating this money to there, and that you have several councilors up here that are veterans, so I think it's money well deserved, and it'll be a great asset for the city of Caldwell. With that, I'll make the motion unless anyone else has any other comments.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment before I ask second Mr. Doty's motion, and that is, this is in large part because of you, Danny. There hasn't been a day in 15 years that I haven't driven by the Veterans Park, and I haven't seen your vehicle out there. And so I appreciate your hard work and your dedication. And it's because of that hard work and dedication that we feel that it's important that we see this project through to completion. So I applaud you. So, having said that, I'll second Mr. Doty's motion.
Did you make it?
One? Well, I don't know how official it needs to be, but I'll make the motion.
Okay.
That we, authorizing the receipt of the Republic Service Fuel Rebate in the amount of $38,681 for the use at the Idaho Veterans Garden Grounds.
Very good. So it's a motion from Councilor Doty with a second from Councilor Dentenberg. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, very good. Then that is open for voting. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. Okay, that moves us to finance report.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Allgood.
I move that accounts payable in the amount of $2,582,200.74, represented by check numbers 176100 through 176382, and payroll in the amount of $680,355.65, represented by check numbers 39322 through 39330, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Do we have a second to that motion? Second. So it's a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Williams for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Update reports, as you know, we already heard from Mr. Jenkins regarding the downtown parking meters. Also, just to note, so Council Register reached out to have an update report from Planning and Zoning regarding number of lots approved, things of that nature. We're hoping to have that tonight, but they did ask for a little more time to put that together, so that will be back, that will be before council on March 19th for that update report. And continue to look for those. If there is something you're wishing or wanting to know more about on that, let us know. We'll put that on there. I think that's a great addition we have on our agendas each time. Just take a little time at the end to update you of what's going on in the city, different projects that may be going on that you're curious about. So just let us know. We can get that on there and have the appropriate staff here to discuss that. With that, we'll move into council comments, and Council Register, we'll begin with you.
I actually don't have anything tonight, but thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Councilor Stodic.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've been receiving some calls and emails about the pathway on Arthur going out to the fairgrounds. I understand we're having a March 14th, workshop on it, is that correct?
Open house, is that
Or open
correct,
house,
Debbie?
okay.
Yep, so March
Okay.
14th. Where's that at? Okay, here,
Okay.
March 14th.
So nothing will be decided prior to that, and the other question I had was, whether or not, have we hired a consultant to bring us a plan together on that, or have we spent any money on it, or?
So this was begun literally, I think, 10 years ago. And so they actually bought, so they were gonna do paws for like coyote paws. And they had to throw them away because they had a 5-year shelf life, and that passed like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's been in the works, I know, for several years. And so I imagine at that time, back in the 2010s, that it would have been discussed and looked at, and it's just kept getting, and I don't know all the reasons why it kept getting delayed and moved back, but I know that it has been, I know for sure those 5 years passed, and then it's been a few years since then.
Okay.
So
there's been money spent on it already as a consultant, or not?
I would imagine so, yeah. On design.
Oh, okay, all right.
The ghost in the back of the room said on design. So.
Okay, but it'll still come before council for input, and whether we deny it or agree or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can make sure it gets
All
to
right.
council.
Thank you.
So, okay, very good. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
that's it.
Councilor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, this must be the Veterans Night because, in previous, I guess, council sessions, I asked for maybe a space on property that the city owns in order for the Veterans Hall to be able to store some of their goods that we're not able to provide to veterans because we don't. My request would be that it be put on, that we put it on the agenda. I've talked with Raylan, and, the council has about 17,000 still at their discretion for usually those nonprofit events that we contribute to. And so, based on my research, a used one can be anywhere between about 1,500 and 2,000, but to move it also costs money. So, I'm proposing that maybe $3,000 total of that money be used so that the Veterans Hall can purchase that and move it rather than us getting involved and having to put it out for bid and all of that. So it would just be a charitable donation to them for the intent of getting a storage box and then working it out with maybe Rob to see if where that would be the best placement in the city. Or you or whoever thinks can have input on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I don't think we would need a motion for that, because that money's there. So what we would do, though, is maybe look for something, and if you have ideas, send them to us, and we can bring that to council to make sure everybody agrees on the type, the structure, things like that. Would that work?
Well, that would work. I'd rather just
have
donate the money
donate
to
the
them
money
and
to
then work
veterans?
and then
Okay.
work with them
Yeah.
to come up with that. I think it's easier, and they're probably not under the same restrictions we are with how to purchase that.
Yep,
so.
nope, perfect. Okay, that sounds great. Okay, anything else?
Oh, no.
Okay, excellent. Councilor Williams.
A couple of things, and maybe one I'll kick down to the end of the road here, but, June 29th, the big deal's coming up, and we had a special guest at the, Historic Preservation Commission meeting last night to explain to us about the moving of the Rice House. And so I'll let our special guest, inform us on that, when we get to his comments, but that's a big deal. If you don't know where the Rice House is, it's that, old one right at the edge of the college property on College Avenue. It's been something, but exciting, and maybe you can fill us in a little bit. I don't know if you had something to share about that. The other thing I wanted to be sure everybody was aware of, and you probably are, so I'm late to the party, but the RFP at the airport for what's been called the farmhouse development, the party that was awarded the RFP failed in their execution of that RFP. I want to be careful how I say all this. And so it goes to the second on that RFP list, which is Silverhawk Academy, and they're moving forward with the development of the FBO out there at the airport. And it seems very promising and exciting and should be moving forward fairly quickly, especially in light of the delay in this other RFP. And so that's going to do a lot for us, including getting us a real live, fully functioning FBO with Silverhawk that already sells fuel. And anyway, if you have any questions about that, you can contact Scott out at the airport best, or you can talk to me later. But I thought it's worth sharing because that's moving along. Wasn't sure if you were already aware of that. And then, Mr. Mayor, there's talk going around since our approval of the RFP for the amphitheater of a resolution that might have some interference with that. And I don't know if you're planning on sharing that with the council tonight, or if we're just it's I don't know if it's rumor or innuendo or what. So there's a resolution out there that's circulating that expresses that stipulates that there be a board created that includes the fair and the rodeo and the city to authorize anything to do with those properties, some of which are included in our desired use for an amphitheater. And so that resolution may cause us to have to rethink some of what was approved already.
So I haven't heard of that. I know that there's a group that came to light of that is a representative with the city, the county, and the fair, and I think there's and then the county fair on the 4th. So, but I don't remember seeing anything in there. So that just is talk about what's going on, kind of a group that gets together. It kind of died away because everybody kind of came in new with the new commissioners. Things of that nature hasn't met for quite some time, but we are meeting here within the next couple of weeks, I believe, on that. So I don't think there's anything in that resolution that.
It's resolution number 50-02 dated July 15th, 2002. I think it requires a citizen of the community to, I haven't read it for a couple of weeks, but I concur too. I'm not sure it covers the exact area of where the amphitheater is, but it certainly covers a lot of that area. And, yeah, what do we do when the board, or I don't know if it's a committee or a board, or I'm sure the resolution says what it is. But if it hasn't been put together in so long, do we need to take action on that now that we're aware that the resolution says it needs to be there? Does it have to be re-signed by all the new people, or I guess maybe some
It seems to me, just because we weren't aware of a resolution doesn't mean we don't have to abide by it.
Absolutely.
The resolution
That's
is
what
a
I'm saying.
resolution, and so we need to honor that, unless or until it's rescinded, and it
Right.
has not been.
Right, correct, I agree.
Yeah, and I know that we were meeting, like I said, on it, it just kind of came to light, and I know that's that resolution that created, or basically said that the fair doesn't have to pay any rent because it's a community event, so we realized that, we need to work together on it and support each other, things of that nature on that, and then also meeting, and like I said, those meetings kind of, I don't know who was in charge, so I reached out to the 4 other entities that were part of that to say, hey, who knows about this, who was in charge of scheduling these meetings, nobody really knew. So I went ahead and scheduled one, and we'll be having one with a representative from each of them, towards the end of this month on that. And yeah, definitely we can talk about that and look at it and see what all it entails. So where there was obviously the RFP was proposed, but there's still a lot to go through. So I think that those intents can be met because there's nothing final yet. It's just working with that specific developer moving forward. And it also, the fair, the rodeo, I think the college, which isn't in that, but they were all part of that panel that met and reviewed the RFP on it. So I don't know if that plays to it, but yeah, definitely can look into it.
Well, I'll just say this and I'll be done, but I think in light of the resolution, we need to assemble the board. We need to have a designated board as stipulated in that resolution, and other people smarter than me can read that resolution and see if I'm interpreting it correctly, but we should have a board.
Mm-hmm.
So, that would be my hope in light of the resolution.
Yeah, definitely. And we are meeting that board on later this month.
Mr. Mayor, it's not the board you're meeting with, though, because it requires other people than just the ones you mentioned, according to the resolution. So you're meeting with representatives, but I'm trying to find it here in my email.
Member from the Canyon County Fair, the rodeo, in the city, and then the 5th was an at-large member that wasn't to do with those. So that person is non-existent right now, is my understanding. So the 4 of us are meeting to discuss who was that person, kind of get everybody back on track and see. I think it should be the college because they're obviously very heavily involved since '02. They put the football in there, things like that. But that'll also be discussed and things like that to see who that 5th person should be.
But you just use the word member, and I think that's what's critical. We need to have a assembled board with members that are known, not just these people are getting together to discuss this. I think we need to have a designated board.
I'm trying to find what it says. And maybe
Appointees. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, I've just seen a little bit of it, but I think each of these organizations appoint a member, so I'm not sure whether or not this body would ratify that, or if it's just a matter of each of these organizations saying, John's gonna go, and Jim's gonna go, and Deanna's gonna go, and but I'm not the legal expert.
I would question, since nobody is around from 22 years ago that existed, I would question the validity of I don't think it exists in perpetuity, like forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, I don't.
So my inclination would be that if we desired to do this again, that we remove whatever this thing is and start fresh, because we have players now that didn't exist at the time of that, and start fresh with a new plan with the new because again, the college was not part of it back then, and just I would be resistant to continuing a 22-year-old resolution. It would be better, I believe, to start fresh, get a new plan moving forward.
Yeah, I think, and again, this is my understanding, is it was always somewhat informal, so not like a designated, kind of like you're saying.
It says here,
I know,
Mr. Mayor, the board shall consist of 5 directors, which shall meet at a mutually agreed upon location one time each quarter. Now, whether it's Still valid or not, I don't know. Counselor Williams makes a good point. It's a resolution. This says you have to give 2 years' notice for it to remove yourself from it. But I think Mr. Hilty probably needs to look at it based on what Counselor Allgood has also said. Does it go out if we're not using it, or like Counselor Williams said, does it stay in effect to infinity until somebody does something about it? It says one individual who is a resident of Canyon County at large and 4 board members. Anyway, maybe it needs to be reviewed by Mr. Hilty and see what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, for sure. We can get that to him for that. So, okay, thank you for bringing that to light. Counselor Allgood?
Nothing made nice, sir.
Very good. Counselor Dittenber?
So, I'll finish up on what, Counselor Williams started, and that is, many, many years ago, and the mayor will know that the Housing Authority had a particular interest in the John C. Rice House that's located on College. And I think if I'm not mistaken, the mayor even had an interest in that house way back in 2010 or 2011. And after many years of working with the college, we finally reached an agreement with the college to move the house off the property. And at that time, the Housing Authority owns a piece of property on the corner of Kimball and Chicago where we plan on moving that house. And like I said the other night, we thought that 2 years was plenty of time to put the logistics in place to move it. And hindsight vision being what it is, it probably should have been 3 years of time to move it, because we're rapidly approaching that time now. But we have all the players in place. And thanks to the city staff, our Public Works Director, Mr. McDonald, in helping us move this through the process. So it'll be fun, it'll be exciting, and if you want me to put any of your names on the side of the building as it's moving down Arthur Street at midnight, let me know and we can work out a fee. But this is perfect timing. This is perfect timing with the discussion about the whatever this corridor is coming down Arthur. That maybe whatever we're doing there kind of works in line with our effort to bring a house down the street.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you so much. Anything else? Okay, excellent. Very good. And I do not have anything tonight, so appreciate everybody being here. Councilor Register, thank you for joining us via Zoom. We wish you all the best. Appreciate you and being here and active part of that.
32-38 at half, so we better get over there and give them some support.
DFI's losing. First time in many, many months. So we wish the best to them, yes, as they are playing for the championship tonight. So, okay, with that, I stand for a motion to adjourn. In a second. All those in favor? Stand adjourned.